بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الذي خلق الخلائق بقدرته ونشر الرياح برحمته وبعث إلى الجن والإنس رسله ليكشفوا لهم من غطاء وحيه، ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطاهرين وصحبه المنتجبين. Praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of here and the hereafter. Praise be to Him who created everything with His might and sent His messengers to the jinn and humans so that they clarify for them the essence of His message. We convey our greeting and salutation to the Holy Prophet of Islam and his pure progenies. Sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ibadullah, awasikum wa iyai wa taqwallah. عن الإمام الحسين صلوات الله وسلامه عليه أنه قال: خمس من لم تكن فيه لم يكن فيه كثير مستمتع: العقل والدين والأدب والحياء وحسن الخلق، ولا يكمل العقل إلا باتباع الحق. 5 things, 5 characters that if they are absent in the essence of a believer, then don't expect much from them. Number 1, intellect. 2, faith. 3, etiquette or refined character. 4, a degree of shyness and haya. And finally, good manners. An aql, intellect, will not be completed without following justice. We start with the usual reminders to everyone. Please turn off your cell phone and refrain from conversation during the khutbah as well as the prayer. First week of month of Sha'ban is a unique occasion in a sense that we have a number of anniversaries, birthdays of Ahlul Bayt, members of Ahlul Bayt, that we commemorate and celebrate. On the 3rd is the anniversary of the birth of Imam Hussein salawatullah wassalamu alayhi. 4th, Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. 5th, Imam Zain al-Abidin. And next week we have a number of other anniversaries: Ali al-Akbar, the middle of Sha'ban, birth of Imam Zaman alayhi salatu wassalam, and so on. So I would like to take this occasion and offer my congratulations to all of you and for these occasions. This morning, as I was looking at few text messages that I have received, I suddenly noticed, Brother Osama from Sada al-Watan sent me a copy of his newspaper, and right in the English section, 16 Muslims, medical doctors within Michigan and Ohio have already been convicted of defrauding the system with $250 million and helping the opiate industry. I just suddenly took me back 3 or 4 years ago when Dr. Walid Harb, myself, and a few others had kind of a one-day seminar, a Saturday seminar regarding how do we work to reduce the concept of opiates and how many numbers do we have to lose before something is done, and here it is. from our own community. They put short-term interest against the long-term Islamic interest or the social interest. And these are only, as they say, the tip of the iceberg. This is why suddenly the relationship between aql, justice, that is not the intellect that matters if you are not able to frame it in the context of justice. Also, the war in inundated with people asking me questions. Maulana, because of your background in politics and so on, could you explain to us the double standard that exists in this country, or in your an undercurrent to the whole social, political, and economic structures. BBC correspondent, when he went to Ukraine, made it clear we should help them because they have fair skin and blue eyes. And if you don't have fair skin and blue eyes, you become a third category or the fourth category. So we have to pay attention to what is going on. And as far as political situation in Middle East, well, I was hoping that Lebanon will be an exception. By now they will have something resolved. It turns out to be the Lebanese politicians and the Iraqi politicians, they all come from the same background. And they care less about the population. Let's see if people become wiser during this election and make a decision and change. So we continue. As I said, last Saturday, I believe, was the 3rd of Sha'ban and the anniversary of the birth of Imam Hussein, salawatullah salam alayhi. Between our Imams, after the Holy Prophet and possibly Amir al-Mu'mineen, salawatullah salam alayhi, Imam Hussein is the one that huge amount of literature been written about his life. Most of high percentage of these literature focuses on the last 60 days of his life. Literally from the moment Yazid sends an instruction that you have to swear allegiance, Imam moves out of Medina, goes to Mecca, from there to Karbala, until Ashura and possibly slightly after. Very little is covered or talks about the life of this unique Imam from the beginning of his life up to Karbala. What kind of character he was, what did he do, and how he supported Islam during the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen and also after. Particularly absent from the literatures that we have is anything about our role as Shias living in the West in propagating and universalizing the core message of Ashura to people who are not Muslim at all. Do we have an obligation towards them or not? I know the frame of reference, we are obligated to inform and reform the society. Inform and reform the society. But how can we do that when it comes to this particular issue? There are two paradigms, let's talk about it. The traditional classic paradigm, which I call it crying or commemorating the life of Imam Hussein salawatullah salam alayhi, purely for redemption part, so that our sins are forgiven, we gain thawab, and on the day of judgment, inshallah, Allah would deal with us a little bit better. And there are also a different interpretation of this. The classic interpretation, I don't believe is going to work. Why? Because there is no overlap between us and the community at large as far as culture and the value system. We need to go somewhere else. One of the writers, Dr. Chris Hewer, the British author researching a number of concepts in Christian-Muslim relationship, wrote a book about Imam Hussein. It's available online. The title of the book says, Hussein, the grandson of Muhammad, contemporary reflection on the struggles for justice. Now look at the lens that he has. He doesn't say Karbala, martyrdom, crying, etc., etc. The angle that he chooses, contemporary reflection on the struggle for justice. And he is interviewed by a number of brothers and sisters in England, and this is what he says. If we want to do justice to Imam Hussein and universalize his message, we need to take him out of the Iraqi, Shia, or even Muslim context and see it as a part of a profoundly human drama that unpacked itself during Ashura, and how do we bring it back to our time? And he chooses only one topic. Speaking truth to the tyrant, according to a hadith, إن أفضل الجهاد كلمة حق عند سلطان جائر. And then he says, look at the other values that exist, in universal values that all human beings adhere to, bring them out. Don't narrow it down into the cultural issues that we are familiar with. Now, we say this is a unique individual, more academic, etc., etc. Recently, as I was researching, doing some research on Black Lives Matters, I came across a name, Huda Katibi. I don't believe anybody has heard of his name. A social activist of Iranian descent, was born in the South in the United States. Very active during the Black Lives Matters and after the killing of Mr. Floyd and the oppression of police. Somebody asked her to explain why is she so active in the Black Lives Matters or in social activism. She said, my responsibility to participate and support these people are not only resting on the fact that they are my brothers and sisters or neighbors now she lives in Chicago, but was driven by the thought of participating in Imam Hussein's unfinished uprising. Now, this lady is not overly religious, does not follow Sayyid al-Qa'id or anything, does not stand up and punch in the air pretending to be armchair revolutionary, no. And yet she has the wisdom to see the relationship between contemporary crisis with the old days. And I was driven by the thought of participating in Imam Hussein's unfinished uprising, an attempt to manifest rather than simply recite. We get together in only mosques and we search for only the best person that has got the throat to recite and make us cry. She says it's not going to work. It has to be practice in life. And she explains further, simply recite. For me, كل أرض كربلاء وكل يوم عاشوراء, which was a slogan or associated with Imam Hussein, tells me that whenever justice and oppression clash, that place becomes Karbala and that instance becomes Ashura. Now, this is a young lady, hasn't been to Hawza, hasn't been to anywhere else. But from the basic understanding of Karbala and Imam Hussein, she understands that if we want to universalize Imam Hussein, there are core values within Imam Hussein's uprising that we can bring it out. Strip the cultural issues out and bring these values out, let people hear it. And even one or two pictures I saw during those uprisings, a couple of sisters were holding كل يوم عاشوراء وكل أرض كربلاء. So the challenge is how to universalize Imam Hussein's message. There are two paradigms. The classical paradigm, which we do it in our mosques, religious centers, bringing people that focus on the last 6 months of Imam Hussein, and then we go out and we continue with our life as if nothing has happened. Or focus on the core values. Let me give you a further example. Karbala, as a city in Iraq, during Ashura, the middle of Sha'ban, and particularly Arba'in, attracts huge number of people. I'm sure some of you, brothers and sisters, have attended last year's program during Arba'in. Particularly during Arba'in, in addition to 20 million people participate. Every year it goes up. And within these people that come, not all of them are Shias, not all of them are Muslim. There are Christians, Jews, Zoroastrians, even atheists, African, Middle Eastern, Far Eastern, Europeans, they all come over there. Not all of them focus on the redemptive part of Ashura. The other authors have already seen through this. Let me give you another example of a French philosopher died in 1984. I have read a huge number of his work because it was part of our studies at the university on what we call post-colonial discourse. Has a book on Iran. Culture of Iranian Revolution. Karbala, under the title Karbala and Christian Rite of Penance and Culture of Iranian Revolution. He went to Iran during 1978-79. Wrote a book. He was surprised that contrary to the traditional approach to Karbala that is purely for lamentation and asking Allah to forgive our sin, the narrative of Karbala has been changed into liberation. I'm sure Marhum Allama Sheikh Muhammad Jawad Shirri was there in one or two occasions and would witness that. I wish I would have seen him before his departure. But this guy, and this is the text that he writes, in crying for Hussein, one also gains absolution from the Almighty for one's own guilt. Others are seeing it. But this is not going to help us here. We really need to go towards Huda Katibi and other people that they say contextualize the message of Ashura in the conflict that we are going through in dealing with the tyrant, with the oppression, injustice, and everything else. The Archbishop of Tbilisi, a few years ago, he went to Iraq. He is a Christian from Georgia, not Georgia in the United States, but Georgia the country. And he was asked, walks from Baghdad to Karbala with the rest of the crowd, with all the cloak and everything else as Archbishop. Somebody asked him, and stands in front of the mausoleum in Karbala, doesn't say that I'm here, O Hussein, because there is a hadith that if you cry for Imam Hussein, your sins are forgiven. No. He says, O Hussein, you taught us, this was during the turbulent time of Georgia fighting with other countries. O Hussein, you taught us not to compromise in front of the tyrants and not to support injustice, but always support justice at all costs. Another message from Karbala. So if the challenge for us is to go out and universalize the message of Imam Hussein, we really need to understand, to come out from that cultural cloak and cocoon that we have created on ourselves, that constantly focuses on the tragic part. There are other universal values within it that we can use it as a common denominator, the overlap with others that may not understand our language. You talk to somebody that hasn't heard about or saying about social justice, equity, karama of human being, etc., etc. There is a listening ear, immediately they will respond. But bring them in, see the Latmiya and in some other places, Tatbir and everything else, you wouldn't see them again. I had a friend during the days in Colorado. He married an American sister who converted to Islam. And after a while, he decided, well, it's time for my mother-in-law, grave mistake, for my mother-in-law to be brought to an Islamic center. I wish he would have brought the mother-in-law during middle of Sha'ban or some other times. When? The night of Ashura. Poor choice. As soon as she walked into the center and saw the whole shenanigan, turned around, walked out, and said, I'm not going to talk to you at all. You are savages. Wisdom, al-aql here matters. If we are searching for a way to propagate Imam Hussein, the old classical traditional approach for ourselves, fine, you can do whatever you want. But it cannot be a successful strategy to take Imam Hussein out into the public era. We really need to do something extra about it. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the privilege of being able to understand our role. We are not here just to be successful in our own life. We have an obligation to educate and reform our society. The first prerequisite is for us to embody those ethical and moral laws that we're going to tell somebody else. Otherwise, فاقد الشيء لا يعطي. If you don't have it, you can't give it. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين نحمده ونشكره ونستغفره ونصلي على سيدنا ونبينا محمد خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله الطاهرين وصحبه المنتجبين. أخواتي وإخواني الأحباء، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. عباد الله، أوصيكم وإياي بتقوى الله. في بداية شهر شعبان التقينا بذكريات إسلامية عطرة، ربما كانت أسماء أصحابها توحي بالحزن، ولكن هذه الذكريات لازم أن تمثل الخط الذي رسموه والجهاد الذي حركوه. فالمولد الأول هو مولد الإمام الحسين صلوات الله وسلامه عليه في 3 من شعبان. والحسين ليس مجرد شخص من لحم ودم، إنه كون رحيب واسع ممتد ينتج في كل جيل كونا جديدا، لأن الحسين أطلق كلماته وسقاها بالدم وجعل الرسالة تجري في داخل عروقه، وواجه التحديات بأقوى تحد مضاد. لذلك فنحن نعيش الفرح بالحسين، الفرح الرسالي والفرح الروحي. فإذا أردنا أن نحتفل في ذكرى ولادته فلنحتفل به في معنى فرح الرسالة. إن الحسين عليه الصلاة والسلام لا يريد منا فقط دموعا في ذكرى شهادته وبسمات في ذكرى ولادته، ولكنه يقول إن في كل واقع إسلامي فاسد وفي كل انحراف في الواقع الإسلامي وفي وجه كل قيادة ظالمة اطلبوا الإصلاح في أمة جده، كل بحسب طاقته وإمكاناته، لا تفسدوا في الأرض ولا تثيروا الفتنة ولا تنحنوا إلى أي يزيد. والولادة الثانية هي ولادة العباس بن علي أخ الحسين عليه السلام، هذا العبد الصالح المطيع لله ولرسوله ولأمير المؤمنين والحسن والحسين. وقد كان كما يقول الإمام الصادق صلوات الله وسلامه عليه: نافذ البصيرة صلب الإيمان. قد نذرف الدموع عليه، ولكن كم من عباس عندنا يحامي عن دينه، وكم من عباس نافذ البصيرة في معنى الإسلام على مستوى الفكر والعاطفة. إن المشكلة في التاريخ إنه لا يحدثنا عن العباس إلا في بعض مواقع كربلاء، كما حدثنا عن الإمام الحسين وعن البقية. ولكن عندما ننفذ إلى هذه الشخصية من خلال كلمة هنا وكلمة هناك وموقف هنا وموقف هناك، فإننا نشعر بأن عندما نذكر العباس نرتفع لنجد معنى شباب الإسلام في شبابه، ومعنى عنفوان الإسلام في عنفوانه. والولادة الثالثة هي ولادة الإمام زين العابدين عليه الصلاة والسلام. السؤال: فمن هو زين العابدين؟ والأوراق تخبط. إن الناس يعرفونه في الدعاء وفي البكاء، ولكن عندما نقرأ زين العابدين فإننا نجده في حياته التي بدأت في قلب المأساة، حيث شاهد في يوم واحد كل الصفوة الطيبة من أهل بيته وأصحابه أصحاب أبيه، وفي طليعتهم أبوه مجزرين كالأضاحى، وكان في قمة الصبر. عاش الإمام زين العابدين في تلك المرحلة، ووقف في مجلس ابن زياد ويزيد لينبئهما وليرد عليهما بما أثار حقدهما، وكان يقضي النهار مع الناس، وكان يعلمهم ويرشدهم ويعظهم ويجيب عن أسئلتهم، ويخطط لهم ما ينبغي معرفته من الحقوق الإنسانية التي ركزها الإسلام. ولأول مرة نقرأ دستور الحقوق، رسالة في الحقوق. الإسلام في كل ما يتصل بحياة الإنسان المؤمن مع الله، مع نفسه، ومع الناس، ومع مسؤولياته، فرسالة الحقوق هي الرسالة التي سبقت كل دساتير حقوق الإنسان. كان يأتي المسجد في كل يوم جمعة ويلتف الناس حوله، وكان يعظهم ويبصرهم بمسؤولياتهم. كان يريد أن يثقف المجتمع بالثورة على الظلم، بحيث تكون الثورة على الظلم جزءاً من إسلام الإنسان ومن إيمانه، لأنه عندما عاش تجربة كربلاء ورأى أن الناس صاروا مع يزيد وخذلوا الحسين كما خذلوا أخوه إمام الحسن والأمير المؤمنين، فإنه كان يرى أن هؤلاء الناس يعيشون الإسلام طقوساً وتقاليد، ولم يعيشوا الإسلام إيماناً بالله. ففي مولد هذا الكبار هل نولد روحاً وإسلاماً وموقفاً وإرادة وصلابة؟ هذا هو معنى المولد، مولد الإمام الحسين في عظمته، ومولد العباس في بطولته، ومولد زين العابدين في أبعاده الإسلامية كلها. تعالوا لنرحل إليهم ولنستقدمهم إلينا ليعطونا كل هذا التراث العظيم وهذا التاريخ الرسالي الكبير. نسأل الله أن يجعلنا وإياكم من التابعين لهم والمتمسكين بحبلهم إن شاء الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد، صل على محمد وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا محمد كأفضل ما صليت وباركت على أحد من رسولك وأنبيائك، وصل على أمير المؤمنين سيد الوصيين، وصل على فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، وصل على سبطي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي الشباب أهل الجنة، وصلى على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي عجل الله تعالى فرجه وسهل الله مخرجه وجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره والمستشهدين بين يديه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.